graduated, elevated. Now it's my time to shine, yeah, let's go. Major moves, power moves, take it to the top one time, non-stop.
No, thank you so much for your honesty in terms of that response, because, you know, often I think that's why we have individuals who feel like my supervisor's not guiding me, but you're not asking the right questions. You know, you've taken on what they've said and you became too relaxed, essentially. And now it's time to pick up the pace. You're just like, oh God, what do I do? And you feel overwhelmed and you panic, and then that's when people then resign or take a gap for 6 months, etc., and it just becomes a horrible process, essentially, to which also I'm a victim of falling out of love with my research. So the next question is, I know that you've got your latest publication in terms of COVID-19. The question that I have is, you know, you've been in academia, you've done so much in terms of achievement. Why are you still publishing?
Good question. Actually, because I love research, and also because this is my way of celebrating freedom. So ever since I became a business owner, I can spend my time. The time is a currency. I can spend any way I want. And now, if I have an opportunity to work with good researchers doing good research on a topic I find important, and I have that synergy that I can actually contribute, I do it. And this was actually a good opportunity because this team of researchers, I know them for like, I know the leader of the group for 15 years plus, and I've already known him. He was already like established researcher when I was a master's student at the University of Warsaw. And he reached out to me. It was just a bit like, I think of a serendipity, like good coincidence that we talked at some point when I was passing by Warsaw. And he just told me that he has a great project and good team of people who are very like keen on mathematical modeling and programming, but it's really hard to wrap up a publication from it. And it so happened that I had a good friend who is a PhD after UCL in London. She is a very strong epidemiologist, and I have a background in mathematics. So it's like maybe, and she's great at writing, scientific writing. So I actually came up with this concept that, hey, we could actually join the project as to help the team actually shape this research into a publication, and help them also with some further analysis and with the whole research and publication process and the review process, and stay on the project until the end to make sure that it gets published. And that's how and yeah, and they found the budget for it, so we did it as two freelancers, me and my friend, and it was a great collaboration. Like I was basically responsible for the methodological part. She was responsible for the discussion as an epidemiologist, and it was a great research, great team, and I could do it in my own time because and the whole project lasted for maybe 3 years, which was mostly the review process. The review process was very painful for this one, but eventually, yeah, we got successful and it came out. And this is, I think, for me, again, another like hands-on like example that you don't have to be in academia to publish, because today also, without having any academic affiliation, and I don't have any, like my only affiliation is my company right now, it didn't matter for the editor. So it was also, for me, it was also a way of making my point that research and academia are two different things, and you can as well successfully publish research projects as a free bird, on your own terms, living life you want to live, planning your day the way you plan it, and actually even being actually paid much better than before, because now as a freelance researcher, actually I was paid like 3 or 4 times more per hour than I used to be as a PhD student. So it was just, there were only positives about it. There was nothing, nothing to complain about. I was actually enjoying both the pay and the actual work. So perfect.
No, I love it. And you've answered the rest of the questions anyway in your response. It's like you knew what I was going to ask. The next question then, being a business owner, and I know that you've had some startups over the years. So we'll start off with Stitching Solaris. What is it and what do you do there?
Right. Yes, so actually, the foundation, this is Stichting Solaris, actually in Dutch, it means Foundation Solaris Foundation. It's a non-profit that I started in 2018. It was my first initiative formal initiative after my PhD. And it was actually the way it started. So I volunteered, did a charity work as a career development manager in one of the organizations around the around the Society for Neuroscience. And it was I caught the bug. I was really passionate about coming up with new mentoring programs for students and graduate students in neuroscience. And I decided to establish a foundation to potentially get funds for this, and like aggregating a team, like assembling a team to do this. And eventually it actually morphed into something a bit different. So at this moment, because in the meantime, I kind of realized that if I want to make a living of what I do, I have to actually start a business. So now the way it works is that in my business, I work on new educational like materials and new methods to help people better self-navigate in the job market. I analyze the job market. We do expertise like reports, etc., etc. A lot of teaching workshops, and write books as well. So this is educational, like R&D and education company. And what I do in the foundation right now is actually I realize that many people actually I cannot really help because they will not spend their own cash on any career development services. Especially when they need a job, they feel they are on a survival mode and they will just not invest in it, even if it would actually pay back really quickly, just because they have that stress of they want to keep their cash close, so they will not help themselves. So now the way the foundation works is basically we apply for European funds so that I can actually fund these programs for the people who are not willing to help themselves by themselves, and then help them that way so that they can get on our programs with like for free, because they are funded by European Union. So basically this is the main way the foundation operates right now. But I'm open to further development. So I'm thinking, well, in the future, I would definitely see this organization doing much more than just our program. So this, when I get more people to work with, I will definitely think of extending the scope of operations. But at this moment, it's just a way to help people who otherwise would not just invest in themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And, I think there is power in wanting to help people. And a lot of people, I would say our generation, well, my generation, we're a bit selfish. It's all about me, 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 me. Why should I do it? And in doing that, we've actually decreased the power of community. That's why, you see people marching, there's no further changes after that because we're very selfish. It takes someone going, oh, I'll give you £5, just as an example, and they'll keep quiet, right? There's no dignity in helping or saying good morning to someone is like, you're being weird. Do you get what I mean? The manners, and I think it goes back to some of the challenges that we're mentioning about neurodiversity, to say someone tells you that you've got this, then you take it and then you don't want to do anything about it. You now wear it and say, it is mine, instead of you saying, right, how can I work on A, B, C, D to make it so that I can fit into society? Because you have to be participating actively in society in order for things to move. Or maybe you beg to differ. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Right. Yes, it's like we live in individualistic society.
Mm,
It's also it's a matter of where yeah, every society is a bit different here. It's like I just came back from India, and in India,
mm,
just you cannot really like go from point A to point B, like cross your village without talking to 20 people on the way.
yeah.
So because you meet the same people every day, and then it's actually in a good in a good like manner to step by and say hi and maybe have a sip of chai together. And
Yeah.
so the locals, they make stop every 20 meters and just to greet someone or chat with someone. So they are much more aware of who is around them and of the community without just talking about community. They actually do things, do
Mm,
these little gestures and acts of kindness. It's normal for them. It's so obvious and without talking about it. And I think, yeah, we definitely live very much a part of each other. And
mm,
this is actually, yeah, it's a tricky topic because it's also like I want to be kind to people, but I
mm.
also want to be kind to myself and
Of course.
help people without screwing over my future kids.
Of
And for
course.
many years, I was actually giving like these workshops for free just because I didn't see any other way of helping people before I figured that there are European funds that I can
Mm,
use. So now, because it also felt bad for myself, I was like,
mm,
this is my hard work, and actually, I want to my family to be also in shape, right? I want to
mm,
like work and give value to people, but also without starving, right?
mm,
I need to find a way for the money to flow. If I'm about to help people who don't have cash, I also have to find cash somewhere because otherwise, like I have to be kind to myself too. So that was also, sometimes you have to find that right balance, like to how to
mm,
help people, but also help yourself, or at least not like forget about yourself because other even the best so like the highest satisfaction from helping many people at some point will fizzle out if your fridge is empty. So
mm,
at some point I also had this crisis that I felt I helped like thousands of people, but I didn't really feel that my work was benefiting me. It was benefiting
mm,
a lot of people, but not me. So that was also why I had to restructure the foundation and make sure that if I help people that have no funds to pay for service, then I find this money elsewhere because otherwise
mm,
the satisfaction is gone, and
mm,
the good karma and good vibe you get from helping others, it will just not get back to you. You will just be bitter
mm,
and frustrated. So, but I'm becoming. That's also something that having a company and being on my own with no salary actually taught me. So I think I'm much more down to earth and practical than I used to be as a PhD
mhm,
student. I think I used to be idealistic and sometimes detached. And I think
mm,
I didn't really understand well how the money flows in society,
mhm,
and that like producing value is not enough. You have to also figure out like there's the saying, follow the money. So
mhm,
make sure like that you understand where is the tap with money and how you make sure that you produce value, but you also have that flow of money back. So this is something that took me a few years to realize that I always have to think in both ways, like how I produce uh produce value like to the maximum extent, give like helping people make their lives better, but at the same time I cannot expect that the tap will open by itself. I have to
mm,
make it open. And yeah, this is my responsibility also.
No, I love that. And, your work experience and your lived experiences, they've made you who you are. And often enough, the lived experiences aren't really shared.
Yeah,
And, they aren't really explored either. Or, we live in a popcorn society. People wouldn't really listen to the conversation. They're speeding it up in it to get to the point that they want to hear. So they don't really hear the full story, and then they jump into
right.
conclusions.
Right, and what I would like to ask in this point is, as I know that you're like, you're invested in helping women in professional lives, and I think women, especially for us, it's really hard to negotiate for ourselves. Actually, women are like, according to research, better negotiators than men when it comes to negotiating on behalf of someone else. But when it becomes to negotiate for yourself, we are much, much less um, outgoing, we stand our ground less, and we just make more compromises, which is also something that I think was standing in my way for a long time
Mm,
uh, in the beginnings of my company, and sometimes still is. And I just try to unlearn this habit of just making too many compromises to make everyone happy and be a people pleaser. At
mm,
some point, you also have to learn that your time is has value, and you have to put a price tag on it. And if you hear no, that's okay. And the moment I started actually saying no more often, actually, I got much better offers. So this is something I would, especially if women watch us, for women watching us right now, like it's harder, like it's easier said than done, but you have to start saying no very politely.
mm,
And you will see that you will actually start getting like more money coming back your way
mhm.
once you start saying no. It's a counterintuitive fact, but it's true.
No, I agree with you because, as you're on so many platforms, I'm sure you receive emails left, right, and center and DMs saying, well, can you promote my brand? Can you help me to do this? Sometimes you help because you like the initiative. But when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, you're thinking, well, that's revenue that I could have had. Or they undercut the market. And then you're thinking to yourself, the fact that you've approached me, you saw value. So, but you're
Yeah,
coming at me with something that
yeah,
doesn't make sense. So please
yeah,
go back. But often also you think, oh, life is just life, isn't it? The community is so small. You don't want to have bad reputation. So you start overthinking things. I don't know if it's a woman thing or it's just me as well, because sometimes I think to myself, well, the community is small. I don't want to be rude. Sometimes I'm just in that mood where I go, no, thank you. So
yeah,
I understand what you're saying. It takes a long time to get to that point.
right. Right. It's also sometimes people who haven't spoken to you for 20 years all of a sudden write to you and say, "Hey, can you please reshare this?" I'm like, well, not sure. It just because it has an effect, right? It spoils the algorithm. Like, let's
Mm,
say you write about career development, all of a sudden you have to reshare something that is about sports. Like,
mm,
it just gets your stats, like pulls your stats down, and so that's actually working against me. And I'm like, well, maybe for like a family member or for a close friend, I
mm.
would do it, but for someone who I haven't seen for 20 years straight and they never interact with me, maybe not necessarily, right? So sometimes, yeah, you have to say no because, or just pretend you didn't see it. Yeah,
No, I love that. So going back to the businesses and, in terms of where you are, applying for funding usually is a challenge, and people go into all of these master classes to try and find a way out in terms of what can I do? How can I get the money? And also others want tenders. Others, they just follow the drum, as I would call it. What
yeah.
is the best strategy to ensure that you get some funding and also you use the money effectively because that's the
Right.
other task, isn't it?
Good question. Actually, I personally pride myself on being a bootstrapper, and I think in 2025, I would actually first advice I would have is to not rely on investors' money unless if you, of course, if you're building a physical product, a hardware, or if you're building a biotech company and you need to do clinical research, of course you need an investor. So then you don't have a way out. But if you're building software or a consulting business or um, anything that might potentially be built in-house, I would rather like start learning how you can get revenue before the investment and just not rely on investors, because it's the market is really hard for tech startups right now. And well, a few things. So it's, I would say, in many ways, looking for an investor is the same as looking for an employer. So actually, networking is a very important part of it. So I would say if you just create a pitch deck and you just send it around and hope that somebody will knock at your door with an investment proposal, it's almost like just dropping your CV everywhere. It's like almost no success, right? No success rate. So I would say be proactive and build relations with investors. So let's say probably it would be beneficial to get yourself physically into a hub where there are lots of meetups and like your field is actually well developed. So if you live in Europe, then Berlin, Amsterdam, Stockholm, there are a few hubs, London, of course, where like there is a very vivid startup life. If you live in US, then San Francisco or Austin or Seattle or Los Angeles quite good as well, and not New York, of course, and Chicago a little bit, Boston. So basically, place where there is a market for it. So it's like a big marketplace where a lot of money passes by, and I would just start building relations. So create a CRM of people that are kind of interested in investing in my niche, and make sure that I approach those people, I find them at events, I maybe write them emails with follow-ups at some like from time to time, just explaining what the progress is and what I do in my startup to make them see that I try hard and I make progress and I basically work on it hard every day. And so it's all a process. And yeah, again, in many ways, is like the human factor is very strong here, because at the end of the day, it's a human decision if you get your investment or not. So you have to make sure that you are credible to individuals that have the money. So again, being in the right place, systematic contact, and yeah, building relations is probably, because I mean I don't want to talk about the obvious aspects, right? Because obvious aspect is you have to build a new solution to a problem, right? So
Yeah.
you have to have something in your hands that is not just 20,000 dating app and like all these. So like whenever I'm in San Francisco and go to a meetup, 20% of founders build new dating apps, and they think they are geniuses who will both become a millionaire from the app and get themselves a girlfriend. So it's like killing two birds with one stone. So they feel really smart. But it's like there are hundreds of these people. And second most popular, I would say, a new app to analyze videos, let's say,
Of
and do
course.
some video analysis. And again, like there are thousands of them, thousands and
Mhm.
thousands. And then, yeah, the fact that you can build a new one because you have skill in your hand to build it doesn't mean that you have to build it. So, like, not having a plan, of course, it will basically pay, like it will bounce back and harm you. Absolutely. So having a basic business intelligence skills is actually very important. So making a product that actually caters to some need that is not met. But I would actually like to underscore that networking is
Mm.
probably at this moment what differentiates between people who get the money and those who don't.